are inevitable and not always controllable. What can be controlled is how you manage, react to, and work through the change. Good morning, all. At GL Bajaj Institute of Management and Research. On behalf of whole GL Bajaj family, extend a warm welcome to our guest, Dr. Prasanna K. Padeji, former Professor, Head and Chairman, Board of Studies in Business Administration and Chairman, Postgraduate Council, Berhampur University. I also welcome respected Dr. Ajay Kumar Sir, Director, GL Bajaj Institute of Management and Research, faculty members and dear students to today's webinar on strategies for managing change post-COVID-19. We at GLBIMR feel highly privileged while organizing this webinar. I would like to take you through a quick overview of GLBIMR and would like to share that the Institute, under able guidance of Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji, Vice Chairman, GL Bajaj Educational Institutions, offers 2 years full-time postgraduate diploma in management with an objective to make the students the best management professionals. Recently, the Institute was conferred with Certificate of Merit for Outstanding Contribution in the field of education by Competition Success Review. By Competition Success Review. Also, we have been ranked 50th Best Business School in India by Education World India Private B School Ranking 2020-21. So with today's webinar, we aim to apprise the students with key elements and strategies for managing the change as the uncertainty brought on by COVID-19 requires organizations to recognize leadership and explore new ways of working for business continuity. This webinar intends to explore holistic change management approach with best practices to address the short-term need of surviving this unprecedented situation. So we would look forward to our today's expert, Dr. Prasanna K. Padeji, who would guide us to understand the change management strategies to cope with the imposed challenges. Before that, with permission, I would like to give brief introduction of Dr. Prasanna ji. Dr. Prasanna Kumar Padeji is former Professor, Head and Chairman, Board of Studies in Business Administration and Chairman, Postgraduate Council, Berhampur University. With over 35 years of experience, Dr. Prasanna ji brings a rich understanding of organization behavior, ethics and values, corporate governance and service marketing. Sir has been member of Alumni IIM Ahmedabad, India, Academic Advisory Board, University of Riverside, California, USA, and senior member at International Association of Computer Science and IT, Singapore. At various platforms, he has been invited as a speaker and chair of several conferences such as IIM Lucknow and many more abroad with China, Philippines, Oman, Singapore, Malaysia, UAE, and many more other countries. He is a wonderful trainer and offers over 100 sessions of training programs in the corporate sector. We once again extend our heartfelt greetings to Dr. Prasanna Kumar Padeji and would like to say thanks for taking out time to join us today. We also have amongst us our director, Dr. Ajay Kumar Sir. Sir has experience of more than 32 years in academics, research, training, and consultancies. With his remarkable ideas and actions towards academic excellence, Sir has always motivated students and people around him. Sir has conducted more than 600 seminars, conferences, and webinars. And during this pandemic, COVID-19, he is an active member for social well-being and took many initiatives for helping out unprivileged category of our society. Recently, Sir has been certified for outstanding dedication and services to the society and fight against COVID-19 by Newspaper Association of India and the Scouts Guides organization. I would now like to invite our director, sir, to please proceed with the welcome address. Please, sir.
Good morning, Padhi sir.
Morning, sir.
You are getting my voice. Great.
Yeah, I got it. Nice seeing you after a pretty long time.
Yeah. It's 34 years. 34 years. 34 years back, you had taught me organizational behavior. That was the paper which you used to take.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the same year, I think 87, you had left the institute, BIT Misra. Great to see you after so many years. And it was also wonderful to have interaction over phone, and I was privileged to invite you for this webinar.
Yeah. Thank you.
On behalf of GL Bajaj Institute of Management and Research, I take this opportunity to officially welcome Dr. P.K. Padhi for this webinar. And I am exhilarated for the reason that there are three generations now. One, my teacher, then I am there, and my students are there. So it's a great opportunity. Today we are going to have, I think, a wonderful discussion on change management, primarily under COVID-19. Dear students and faculty members, all of you know that navigating the implications of COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented. The global COVID-19 pandemic has challenged companies to manage their enterprises in newfound ways. In the short term, they are facing enormous scope changes to their business plan. In the long term, they must adapt and continue to make progress on their original goals. Expected change can be hard enough in ordinary circumstances. Leading forced change management for an organization, all while being virtual, can be even harder. Depending on the magnitude of your working environments, you may feel that you are not equipped to manage this dynamic, uncertain change, but you are further along than you think. While many companies have an organizational change management program around technical aspects, focusing and evolving your contingency plans and business continuity best practices around your people will help you navigate this new working culture and keep productivity up and running. Most organizations will be expected to perform as they were prior to the pandemic, but we will have to do it differently through virtual and remote management. If you had a business continuity plan in place, you will need to make sure it covers all the needs of the business. This includes understanding how to make decisions with uncertainty and what is the best approach to maintain focus on execution, collaborate, and communicate remotely and keep the business going. So challenges are many, but opportunities are also there. To do this, organizations need to ensure their business strategy incorporates crisis management, disaster recovery, and risk management in order to adapt and get back on track to true business efforts. And fueling this productivity may look differently than before, such as building new progress dashboards or utilizing new collaboration tools. Keep in mind that change initiatives are not all the same, so the approach should be flexible and scalable to match the needs of the business. This means making sure you are implementing OCM activities that provide the most value and desired outcomes. Using a structured change management approaches will help build change awareness as your employees of organization become more comfortable with new ways of working. So it's a very important subject for all the students, faculty members, and business community. There are many things many aspects also. One can talk about the strategy too, not only of the change management, but the implication of the change management, the impact of the change management on different functions of the businesses. But today we have got our expert here, Professor Prashant Kumar Padhi, and I believe that his deliberations will definitely enlighten all of us and will be benefiting the students who are right now on summer internship, and very soon, after 2-3 months, they will be joining some of the companies as full-time executives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights, and definitely we are looking forward to learn so many things from our expert. So before I move forward, I would like to inform our expert and all the participants that we will re-log in for this meeting at 12:25 using the same login link that was used to join the meeting initially. Now, I would request Dr. Prasanta Kumar Padeji to please start the session. Please, sir.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you, Dr. Ajay Kumar ji, for whom I'm here in front of you today. It's a great moment for me to interact with three generations, as rightly Dr. Ajay Kumar pointed out. Exactly 35 years back, we were together in VIT Mesra when I was a faculty and Dr. Kumar was pursuing his studies. This is a change, right? A student became a teacher and now the director. This is the change at the individual level, right?
Very right.
Individually, we all keep on changing. Yesterday, I was a student and today I become a teacher and tomorrow who knows what I will be. Of course, I have reached the end point of the ladder. So what I mean to say is change is inevitable. Even if we try to stop it, we cannot do that. Now, when we talk about change management, it always refers to an organization. So first of all, let me tell you the important components of an organization which are subject to change. There are three important components of an organization. One is the people, okay? Without people, there is no organization. Second is the structure and system that involves input, process, and output. Third is the technology. The technology that the organizations in the 20th century had adapted has undergone sea changes. Today, we are into the era of Industry 4, where we start talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things. And of course, at the time of this present disaster, we are in a position to interact with each other due to the web technology, right? We are right now on the Zoom. This was never expected earlier in an organization, and it is really a challenge right now as to how the organization is going to cope up when people start working from home. But that is the reality. These are the three important components of an organization which are exposed to the fourth vital component, that is the environment, which comprises of the stakeholders. The environment under which we work comprises of the employer, government, and of course recently the addition is that of the physical environment, where the nature has started influencing the change process. There are two important ways of change. One is the intended change, right? We want to increase the capacity of our industry. We want to increase the workforce. We want to innovate the technology. These are the changes which are induced by the organization itself. And it is intended at bringing about changes for building effectiveness in the organization. The other type of change is imposed, right? You started producing a type of chemical which appears to be dangerous. Government has imposed certain norms that you cannot produce it. Start imagining about the exit and re-entry of Coca-Cola, say for example. With the changes in policy, in late 70s, Coca-Cola disappeared from our country, and then again with the pace of liberalization, it started getting into our country much prior to the stage of liberalization. So the government plays certain roles. The shareholders play certain roles. Employer plays certain roles. These are all the environmental effect on the organization. When the organization is suffering, it's all other three components like people, structure, and technology also suffer. Now, what is the present challenge that the organization faces? The present challenge is imposed on the organization by some unseen forces, by the Mother God, which has released a small virus which we do not know, the COVID-19, that has changed the lives of people across the globe altogether. Now, when we start talking about change management strategies post-COVID-19, it's only in the hands of God right now. We do not know when the post-COVID-19 situation will arrive. Many experts across the globe say that we have to learn to live with COVID-19. There is no other goal until the right vaccine is invented. So, in general, when we start talking about the change management, we take into account two important forces which are acting upon an organization. It may be induced or it may be imposed change. It has two important forces. What are these two important forces? One is the driving force. We bring about certain changes that will create the drive or initiative to achieve the objectives of the organization. That's the driving force. The other one is the restraining force. I'll give you a simple example of the recent introduction or amendment of labor laws. Like the government is also favoring that there should be some relaxation to the labor laws so that we will enhance the FDIs. Some states like Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, UP have come forward to accept that new labor law. Now this is a driving force on the part of the organization, because many foreign investors are scared of entry into our country because of the prevailing labor laws. We all know what happened in the East, especially in states like West Bengal, where every morning the work started not with the normal process, but with the slogans with regards to job security, salary, and all that. That's one of the reasons for many foreign investors keeping away from our country. We are more concerned about the job of the employee and less concerned about the total output. In that kind of an environment, we will not find investors coming in. So, what we foresee from the industry's point of view is a driving force might be posed as a restraining force by the employees. Some employees might feel that they have lost their job security. Similarly, when we start talking about the new technologies, say for example, teachers in my generation had very little exposure to computer. In fact, when I started using computer and internet services, most of my colleagues were trying to, pull my legs. What you will do at this stage? Why do you learn computer? Why do you get acquainted with the internet services? If you rightly know about the first internet service that came to India through Satyam Infoways. For 1 hour usage, you used to spend 60 to 70 rupees. So the whole earlier amount of my UGC scale salary, I lost in that. But what was the result? In the beginning of the 21st century, I got a lot of opportunity to interact with faculty and students like you across the globe. So here I wish to convey to you that you should not think about the change as a restraining force. Even if you try to stop it, you cannot do that. Change is inevitable. Now, how do we adapt the change management strategies post COVID-19? As I rightly told you, the COVID-19 crisis persists and would continue till an unknown time. So we have to evolve our steps for change management strategy accordingly. Our first focus, we do not know when COVID-19 will disappear from the world, but first step in this regard would be to resolve. Now today, industries are closed. They are gradually opening up. And in the process, what happens? We do not know. The company is locked for almost 10 to 12 weeks. You might have heard of a recent disaster in Visakhapatnam, in one of the chemical plants. Because of the lockdown, the plant is not properly maintained. People are not there to take care of that. And that resulted in leakage of the gas, which led to disastrous consequences. So our first focus is to resolve our own mother industry. It must come to a normal stage. Once it comes to normal function, we then start talking about the customers, because we do not know during the last 12 weeks, since we have not provided them the service, the customers might have moved elsewhere. Start caring about the customer. I'll give you an example of a bank. Today, banks are also deferring the payment of their loan installments. It's a step forward to resolve the issue, because they know those who had availed the loan cannot pay back their installments since the operation is not there. Now, under such circumstance, it's obligatory on the part of the bank to provide some relaxation to the customers to make deferred payment of installment. Same is the example that I can cite with regards to use of ATMs. Earlier, the banks had fixed certain norms for usage of ATMs. In urban areas, if you make more than 3 transactions, you will be levied with certain amount of charges for use of ATMs. But now, banks have relaxed that as well. So these are keeping in view the care for customers concept. That is the first strategy I mean to say when we start talking about resolving the situation, right? And second is the care for employees. Where our employees are. Today, if you look at the retail sector, They are asked to open phases. In some units, only 1/3 is operating. What about the remaining 2/3 employees? Now, the company is concerned about that. They are trying to cut the wages at the top and try to maintain their workforce. They have to do that, because unless they do it, the company is going to lose its face value in due course of time. And third is the care for the community. What care the company can take for the community? I can cite the n number of examples in this regard. You know, how the perfume and cosmetic industries have started producing sanitizers. How the automobile industries are asked to come out with ventilators. This is a complete divergence from their normal process of production. It happens only keeping in view the community, because the community comes first. If the community is there, then only the industry will be in a position to serve it. If the community disappears, all that we talk about in terms of change management strategy would be of no use for anybody. So this is the first step, that is how to resolve the issue. And when we start talking about the resolution of the issue, it takes into account three important factors. One is the care for customers. Second is the care for. So let me remind you as to what we discussed so far. We started talking about the change process, and then we entered into the change management strategies with a special focus on COVID-19, the post-COVID-19 strategies. And that I'm going to explain through 5 different steps. The first step is resolve, which we have just discussed, covering 3 different stages of a resolution. One is care for customers, second is care for employees, and third is the care for community, right? This is the first step, resolve. Second and third steps are combined. They are known as resilience and return. These are combined because resilience means coming back to its normal stage. That is the second stage of the management strategy that I am talking about. We do not know whether it will come back to its normal way or not. And we also do not know whether the customers and employees which we have lost due to COVID-19 would be intact. We may come back with a different face, but the functioning of the organization might be somewhat different. That's the most vital strategy for us, how to cope up with online activities. Maybe the e-commerce and online marketing could be a vital wing for the retail services in COVID-19 era. Now, the next most vital part of it is the fourth stage, that is reimagination. Many people are able to imagine, and in the imagination, they forget the root, which we call as the cognitive dissonance. In terms of OB, I would call it as cognitive dissonance. Like, what is our thinking and what is our action? If there is no congruence or consonance between these two, then we'll be just wandering in the bush. We can never catch the bird. So there is a need to imagine the type of organization that we are going to witness post-COVID-19. I'll give you a simple example of the retail sector itself. So far, 60 US retailers representing 370 billion US dollars in annual sales and over 50,000 physical retail locations have closed temporarily. So many outlets have been closed, and when they are going to open, I have given you the example, the buying pattern of the customers has already changed. So unless every employee of the organization starts contributing to the stage of reimagination as to how we are going to function in the post-COVID era, then the organization is not going to survive. That's the biggest challenge we have. And for that, the organization needs to modern terms we call as the agile environment. The most catchy term today is agile. What is that agility? That is the ability to reconfigure strategy. Reconfigure. Strategy has its own configuration. I'm going to deliver a talk on reconfiguration in the next week by another institution. I'll be hosting that, and I'll be providing the link to all the students and faculty. If I get a link of GL Bajaj, I'll pass it on to them. Reconfigure strategy, structure, process, people, and technology. Everything has been reconfigured. The technology that we were using might be mechanical one. Now we are getting into the virtual technology. The process that we were adapting was a manual one, but now we are adapting the information technology process. The structure that we had earlier was very tall. All of you know about two basic structures, tall and flat structure. In the tall structure, you have majority of employees at the bottom, and as we move up, it's like a pyramid. With few people. That was the traditional organization, but today it has gradually compressed, and we are coming across a horizontal structure where the levels of decision making has been reduced. So all these are the points of agility. At each and every point, we must start thinking in a different way. We should not hesitate to adapt the new system. And in order to do that, it's easier said than done. We have to take certain vital steps. It's easier said than done. What are these vital steps which the companies should take in order to adapt the change management strategies. The first strategy, being a teacher in OB and HR, I would suggest is change of mindset. We have a typical mindset that needs changed. That's not an easy task as well. As we start talking about changing mindset, we come across four important pillars of change. These are the four important pillars that I'll be talking about, which bring about change in the mindset of people. Strategy that the company is going to adapt post COVID-19. Sportsman, various types of celebrities are chosen as the role models. As you choose a role model, accordingly, you start developing your mindset. If you are used to a particular habit pattern, that can be changed through the appropriate role model. I'll give you not these role models like Cinestar or a spokesman or change management strategies. Say, for example, the role model that I have for you is Bill Gates. All of you know the popular name, Bill Gates. How Bill Gates can be projected as a role model? If I ask this question to the students, they would say that he's a great person who entered into the web business, who is the so-called head of the Microsoft plant, and he has built the great empire which the world admires today. These are some of the explanations you have when you start talking about Bill Gates. But with regards to change management strategy, I'll give you another example that will help you in developing some insights into the role modeling part of Bill Gates. We do not know the story behind as to how Bill Gates started entering into the web business. When Bill Gates started planning about his entry into the web business, most of his directors objected to it. Oh, Bill, you produce a product, send it to the market, the customer comes and sees it, he uses it, and then provides you the feedback. Yet you find it very difficult to promote your product. Now you are talking about something which will not yield any positive result on the part of our organization. You are going to sell something in the space that people cannot see, they cannot touch it. Oh, Bill, don't enter into the web business. It's only when Bill Gates could overcome that hurdle, WWW could become the reality. This is an example relating to change management. Whenever you want to bring about a change, a little change, you will come across resistances, maybe minor or major resistances are there. So how smoothly you overcome that resistance determines the success or failure of your strategy. Bill Gates could overcome that kind of a barrier created by his own directors. That's why we find www, the web business, a reality today, maybe because of which we are interacting with each other today. What a wonderful example you can cite by building a story. And for that, you must be prepared to come out with a different level of imagination. Second is to foster understanding and conviction. When you start acting as a role model in the organization, you have to next start thinking about the understanding and conviction that you have at the first place, like sincerity, honesty, dedication are the catchy words today, right? Many people start using it. But whenever they get an opportunity, they are the ones who deviate from it. Under such circumstances, you are not going to rely those people. Even though initially you have taken them as role models, you will discard them. You come across in your day-to-day life with many such incidents. Where the company is headed, you have to understand. With the changes which are brought about today, where the company is heading for, and why those changes are imminent. You need to convince people. Why is the change important or imminent? Many times people might not understand the underlying theme, and as such, they might start developing negative feelings about the changes which you are going to execute or implement. I'll give an example again here. This is from the IBM, right? In 2006, IBM used its intranet to conduct 272-hour jam sessions. You know, jam sessions like you're having a product for which you have given the offer, and within 3 seconds the offer is closed. That's the jam session. Sometimes for selling the mobile phones and such other articles via online on the e-commerce channel, you came across that issue. Also, we witnessed that while going for railway tickets via IRCTC. The moment you open it, all the tickets are exhausted. So that's the type of session which is known as jam session. Okay, why did they carry out that jam session? With what objective? The objective was, what are the different business opportunities available to IBM? What is your normal expectation? When there is an opportunity that will personally benefit you, you start running after it. May it be to buy a ticket via IRCTC or buy a mobile at a cheaper price. But here, IBM is talking about the future business opportunities, and for that it wanted to connect its clients and other stakeholders as to what are the other business opportunities available. You'll be amazed to know that there were more than 150,000 visitors from 104 countries and 67 different companies who are the clients of IBM. And there were 46,000 posts with regards to new business opportunities available to IBM. Sometimes you think such efforts are useless. There is no need to go for such inputs from the clients, from customers, from employees. But you see how a company like IBM achieved this success. You not only create the role model, you also start fostering the understanding and conviction. How people are understanding your new venture or new endeavors. And third is reinforcing with formal mechanism. First is role modeling. Second is fostering understanding and conviction. Your understanding becomes much clearer as you start opening up. Third is reinforcing with formal mechanisms. All that you carry out must be reinforced through formal mechanisms. Otherwise, it will just disappear. How I'll give you the reinforcement example. Like if you are contributing to the sales growth, you will be compensated maybe 5% or 7% in the form of commission, or maybe in the form of incentives and bonus. This is one type of reinforcement that the companies exhibit in the form of compensating. Now there is a problem here. If you increase or enhance, you are being compensated. If you are not in a position to achieve the target, you don't get the commission, you don't get the incentive. So this kind of reinforcement is quite mechanical. You know? If I get something, I get it because of the work, because of the dedication that I have. If I didn't get it, maybe because I didn't perform to that extent. This is the normal logic. But this won't lead to the kind of reinforcement as we have observed through several experiments. I can give you a simple example nearby your place, right? The example of DTC, Delhi Transport Corporation. There was a time when most of the road accidents occurred during the last trip of the DTC's bus schedule. Say, for example, someone's schedule is from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. He has to make 4 trips from one terminal to the other. And after the 4 trips are over, he will bring back the bus, keep it in the depot, and then go back to his home. So the trips were fixed, 4 trips to and fro. After the 4 trips are over, he will keep the bus and he will go away. When the driver used to return to the depot, by completing his 4th trip, the speed of the bus automatically went up. because his attention was diverted towards the family. How quickly I'll go back, park my bus and go back home to give company to my family members for lunch and dinner. And in the process, what the researchers observed, most of the accidents were taking place towards this last trip. So the depot manager was given the advice as to if a staff is engaged for certain duration from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. if it is the time schedule allotted to him, and if the driver completes the final trip by 1 o'clock, he cannot leave the depot before 2 p.m. This is what is reinforcement. Even if you have completed your job earlier, you cannot leave the depot. So in the process, the driver forgets about going home. His attention is further concentrated on his steering. The number of accidents came down. This is an example of reinforcement mechanism. Another reinforcement mechanism, I would say, with regards to the education that we are coming across right now. If you bring about certain publications for teachers, there are certain incentives. Even for promoting to a higher position, we take into account the research and publication of the faculty.
Okay. Sorry
Now-
to interrupt, sir. After 5 minutes, we would have to re-log in for the new session.
Sure,
So
sure.
after 5 minutes, we'll be logging it back.
Sure, right. So there is of course no mark assigned for the quality of teaching. I have observed it during the last 4 decades of my involvement in management education as a teacher. Many of my colleagues were also asking questions as to, Padi, why you are going to IIM, why you are going abroad by spending a lot of money when there is no reward attached to it. You have already become a professor since last 10 years. I said, no, that is the way in which I want to reinforce my own strengths, my own capabilities. But if the organization provides some additional sanctions or opportunities, then it will be perhaps reinforced further among the faculty. Say, for example, the present mode of online teaching. Many teachers who are otherwise projecting themselves as good teachers fear to come before this online session. Especially in the schools, the condition is much more horrible. When the teacher starts taking up the online class, the students' parents are also sitting with the student. They start commenting as to how the teacher is making committing certain mistakes while pronouncing a particular word. So these are some of the challenges which are to be re-evaluated in a different way through a formal mechanism. How many webinars you are conducting? What is the audience? What is the type of feedback that you give? These are the new normals. These are going to happen in future. We cannot simply get away by talking anything to the audience and getting back our compensation for that. The time has changed. And fourth one, the most vital one, with which I'll be winding up my deliberation, is that of developing talents and skills. Here, I'll give you a small example of development. How you understand that is again most important, because a management teacher never gives you everything in black and white. He leaves something in the dotted line which are to be further filled up by you. I'll give you the example of a student from the so-called Hindi belt or Hindi medium of education. All of you, those who are in the Western UP, in NCR or in Delhi, have a very good accent in spoken English. But as you start moving eastwards, as you come down to Eastern UP and Bihar, you will start learning something different in terms of pronunciation. Like for school, someone will say e-school, right? Student, someone will say e-student. Now similarly, a teacher in a vernacular medium school was assessing a student of standard 4. He wrote on the blackboard Nature and asked the student to pronounce. All of you know how to pronounce it. It is nature. But the student pronounced it as nature. The teacher got an this is a simple pronunciation I expected from you, and you say it is nature. You to standard 5 from standard 4. The student got annoyed and he started replying, "Sir, for this minor mistake, why are you going to spoil my future? Future, future, which he pronounced as future." Most of you might have heard this example. This is a very old example. Given an opportunity to assess that student, how are you going to assess him? Whether he is a good student or a bad student. On the face of it, the teacher said that you are a bad student. You are not in a position to pronounce the two words, nature and future. So I am not going to promote you from standard 4 to standard 5. But in reality, the student knows both these terms, nature and future. So you have to pick the development from this point. Development will not be visible all of a sudden. Rome was not built in a day. If you find something good in a person, say that he is doing better. If you find something better in someone, say he is doing the best. That's the way in which you will be successful in adapting the change management strategies. The last but the most vital part of the change management strategy I would explain through the CLOPS learning model. What is CLOPS? David Club evolved a learning model which is most appropriate in today's era, the COVID-19 era. That involves 4 steps. What are they? First is the action. Second is the reflection. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's what you study in physics. But in behavioral terms, we say every action has a reflection. And after that, the third stage is experimentation. And the fourth one is management strategy through the model that is evolved by David Clark. It has 4 different steps. What are these 4 different steps? First is action. Second is reflection. Third is experimentation. And fourth is application. It is very much relevant in the context of COVID-19 or even in the post-COVID-19 scenario that is imminent. You might have heard a lot about the steps taken by the government to rebuild the economy. Government has declared that about 20 lakh crore has been released to bring back the economy to its normalcy. You also came across several incidents like how the PPE units, the physical protection equipment units have come up so early in the pandemic. In the recent speech of the Prime Minister, we heard as to how we are going to become Atmanirbhar, okay, self-reliant, instead of exporting raw coal and get it back after being purified. Can we purify the coal as a raw material here in our country? These are the ways through which we could become self-dependent or self-reliant. Now coming down the line, if you look at the entrepreneur and ask him as to, are you interested in going for a coal refining unit? He's going to question you in a way, can I get the raw material in time? Can I get the machineries in time? Can I get the loans in time? And finally, whether the project becomes or would become viable for me. These are the questions he is going to ask. And who is going to provide him the convincing answer? Here is David Clark, who is going to provide him the answer. I'll provide you the answer by citing the example of a stationery supplier called Renault and Renault. In early 90s, this stationery provider or a supplier started pleading before its employees. The chairman of the company or the director of the company, David Holmes, said it to his employees that after 5 years, this company is going to become a $500 million company, and it will become an information service provider company, not a simple provider of stationery. And he made it possible. The company could achieve the target of 500 millions within 5 years. And after that, one of the IT giants took over that company. Same is happening in our country as well. Many companies in the IT sector, they develop some apps, and later on, the giant IT companies buy those apps at a very high premium. So in business, you need to build that confidence among your employees that tomorrow is going to become brighter. The moment your employees develop that kind of a feeling, they will voluntarily come forward to contribute to your mission, and you will achieve success. To make it further clear, getting aside from the Reynolds experience, I'll give you a simple experience that we all come across in our day-to-day life. That's most appropriate in our classroom teaching. Sometimes we bring in the examples from big corporations which are far away. So I'm getting you closer to it by giving you an example. All of you might be having a four-wheeler, and if not a two-wheeler, right? Now, I am a garage owner of two-wheelers. I have 4 mechanics working under me in my workshop, in my garage. I have not paid them their wages for the last 3 months. Maybe taking this as a plea, maybe COVID as a plea might be taken by some people at present. One fine morning, mechanic comes to me, says, "Sir, my family will die of starvation. Please provide me my wages. If not full, at least pay me half." I tell that gentleman, "Don't worry, we are passing through a bad phase. Tomorrow, I am going to get into the venture. 20 lakh crore has been sanctioned by the government. I'll get into the venture of starting my own automobile unit. I am going to become the chairman cum managing director of the automobile unit. And I'm going to make you the general manager of my unit. Don't worry, go back home." Will that mechanic trust me or my words? Certainly not. Look at this mad fellow. He has not paid me the wages for the last 3 months. And now he says that he is going to start an automobile unit. How is it possible? So action that you exhibit leads to the reflection. What is the reflection? Reflection is the big picture. In case of Reynolds, big picture viewed by the employees. And here in this example, the example of a garage owner, the picture becomes gloomy. Employees do not trust me. Oh, what this fellow will do? Now, after you get a big picture, let me go back to the earlier example of Reynolds and Reynolds. You carry out the experimentation. Say, for example, you are supplying paper to a particular unit. From there, you start changing over to the computer papers, papers which are used in the printers. Then from there, you gradually started preparing the letterheads. In due course of time, you start enabling yourself in such a way that you are no more a stationery supplier, but the information service solution provider. This is how you have to evolve your strategy: action, reflection, and then experimentation. And finally, it is the application. So these are some of the things which I could share with you within this short time that is allotted to me. I'm really grateful to all the faculties and students, and especially to Dr. Ajay Kumar for giving me this opportunity. A teacher is
Thank you.
retired, never tired. I'm not tired. Kindly keep on encouraging me so that I'll come again and again in front of you to share Magic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. We'll definitely look forward for another session, and such a elaborative discussion on this topic was really insightful for all of us. So just before we start the question answers and the students are, they may start writing their queries in the chat box. I would like to sum up that you talked about the components of organized different change management strategies that consist of people, system, and technology. And also you talked about very important model like action, reflection, experimentation, and implementation. You also talked about that how the significance of agility is such existing today, and it is because that it means that this is reconfiguration of a strategy, people, system, and technology. So and also you talked about pillars of change that are role modeling, conviction, that is understanding, reinforcing with formal mechanism, and developing talent skills. So thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. And now we'll start with the question answer sessions. And one question I've received from Shitakshi: for a good change, what should come first, internal process integration or external process integration? So your views on this. Sir, please unmute yourself. I would request Saurabh, sir, to please unmute our speaker.
The question is, which comes first? It's a egg story, right? So, like, which comes first? Sometimes I told you there are two ways in which the change happens. One is the intended, and the other one is unintended or imposed. If you want to bring about change in an intended way, like adopt new technology, and for that induct a new set of people, and bring about corresponding changes in the structure and systems, then you need a lot of internal integration. But when something is imposed on you, like COVID-19 is imposed on you, something in the form of regulation made by the government is imposed on you. So you have to think about the opportunities available outside your organization in the form of regulatory mechanisms, in the form of the government support. All that you will start looking for the moment you understand that something is going to be imposed on you. So both are important, not only internal, the external. Internally, you might be very well prepared, but if there is no support from outside, like you don't get the support from the government, you don't get the support from the financial institution, from your stakeholders like shareholders, customers, then all that you are producing will go in vain. For whom are you producing it, right? So both are important, but depending upon the situation, the focus changes, right? Am I clear now?
So, yeah, definitely, sir. Rajneesh Kumar is there, who is asking, how will organization ensure the well-being of people and the safety of productive assets in this crisis? So your perspective on this. What should be the strategy of organization?
You mean well-being of people? Many organizations have started looking towards it in this period of crisis. During the pandemic, many organizations in the developed world are duly compensated by the government, and in our country, for example, many organizations have started cutting down the compensation at the top, the bottom line, the employees, with regards to the well-being of people. And the second one which you are talking about is the safety, right?
Yeah.
That is how are you talking about the safety of equipment
Safety of
or
employees as
production
well
or
in this
assembly
crisis.
line or yes? Or,
Safety of productive assets in terms of employees as well in this crisis, because employees are of course assets of the organization.
yeah. That is most important. Like safety norms which are to be adopted by all of us is made very clear. Like you have to maintain a distance of 4 to 6 feet. You have to use the face mask. You have to use the sanitization now. If you enter to a shop, I don't know whether in Greater Noida shops are open or not. In Hyderabad, say for example, from where I am speaking to you right now, most of the shopping malls are open up to 9 p.m. from morning 7 to evening 9. It is open. And when I enter into any such mall, first there will be the thermal checkup, and after that, there will be sanitizer spray on my hands. So these are the simple things which are practiced here. And depending upon the nature of the organizations, if you are engaged into some kind of production where large machineries are used, you need to take into extraordinary precaution with regards to safety of your machineries and equipment.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
I think it's good.
yeah,
Okay.
well, definitely, sir. So your perspective on how post-COVID is, it would be considered as a situation or an opportunity, as this is of course an imposed change. So your perspective, how it can be taken as an opportunity, if you think.
For all students and faculty of management, I have it's line to be observed. There is a word which is used often by the traditional management students and teachers. That is threat. SWOT analysis you make: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In the 21st century, we have taken out that T and replaced it by C. We say it is SWOT analysis. C means the challenges. Now, if you are a successful manager, you will convert the challenge to that of opportunities. Now, what are the opportunities created through COVID-19? We have to look at it in an optimistic way. Look at the carbon pollution, say for example. Look at the way has been purified at Gangotri. The quality of water happened to be pure, and as it moved down the line and reached Haridwar, it became a bit polluted. Now, the river water is not that polluted. Air is not polluted. This is one aspect, one positive aspect. So we are talking about the clean environment that we have achieved. Second one is work from home, right? This has given us an opportunity. You are in a position to interact with me from a remote place like Hyderabad. Because of this COVID-19, let us take it in a positive spirit. Okay.
So, last question is, one last question would like to understand on the area that, of course, we all understand that this is not a planned change, and it has impacted the organization in terms of working style, employee experiences, labor market dynamics. So how should be the leadership role to direct and bring in adoption to change as the culture?
See, when we start talking about the leadership role, that of course remains universal. That doesn't change. I can simply cite the simple leadership quadrant which your student might have studied while explaining the Blanchard's model. You might have made them understand uh, uh, as to now there is altogether a change in the setup, right? Left your organization and you need many more highly these. Now as you start congregating them, should I start with the example of migratory labor from the west to the east? Now many such laborers have come back to their respective states, Bihar, Eastern UP, Bengal, Orissa, like that. Government is providing them engagement to various programs, and today one such program was inaugurated by our Prime Minister. We provide them the basic wages in different forms. But that is not all. All those who have migrated from the west to the east are and we have to create a categories of migrated from west to the east, and accordingly we should start utilizing their services. If someone is a graduate or an MBA, he lost his job in Gujarat and he has come back to Eastern UP, he cannot be utilized as a land laborer.
Yeah.
So when we adopt different stakeholders in his cooperating and delegating, you tell someone, whom are you going to tell? The person who is quite immature, the worker class or unskilled class. And then you will sell your ideas to those who are moderately qualified, then who are the most behind. Fourth one, you delegate accordingly.
Yeah.
This is the simple mantra I have for you.
Definitely. Exactly. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session on handling these our queries with such a good examples and explanations. Now, I would request our director, sir, to please conclude the session, sir, with your concluding remarks and speak something about the session.
Sansar, are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Padhi sir is there or?
Yeah,
Yes,
we are.
So it was a wonderful session. It was a wonderful session. It was a wonderful session, and listening to you after long time, a long time. I mean, gap of, you can say, 2 generations altogether. It was wonderful. I still remember your sessions which you had taken, specifically organizational behavior, and at the time too I had enjoyed a lot, though all other students, I mean, I have sent the few photographs to all the students of my batch and rather 1986 batch also, and they immediately recognized you. So this is the message from different groups of 1986 and 85, 84, 3 batches who immediately identified you, recognized you, and were asking about your welfare also. And they were also asking, where are you presently? So really it's a nostalgic feeling also being with you, though online, but at least we can see each other, we can talk to each other. And naturally, all the faculty members, all the students who have participated in this webinar, in this discussion, must have benefited a lot. So thank you very much, sir. We would like to have such sessions in future also, when our regular classes, not if not physical, then again online, take place. And I will be sending you a few topics too, on which students can have benefit of listening to you. Thank you very much.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of entire GLBMR family, I would like to express my gratitude
you, sir.
to Dr. Prasanta Kumar Ripadaji for sparing his valuable time and sharing his immense knowledge with us and motivating our students. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our director, Dr. Ajay Kumar sir, for organizing this knowledgeable and enriching session, and students for being so steady and energetic. Thank